I just wanted to say thank you all for being here with us today. Um, sorry, move this around here. Okay. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the WASAC Annual Financial Aid Training. You are in the Passport to Careers update session. Thank you for joining us today. This year, we've changed things around a little bit, and we have asked Kathy Ramsey and Aubrey Schlotterman, our partners at DCYF, to join us to also provide you with some information on the Education and Training Voucher Program. We are also fortunate to have my colleagues Nicole Fry and Carla Idle-Corwin monitoring the Q&A tool. I also want to thank Colleen Scoville for being the force behind our scheduling these trainings and for advancing our slides with us today. It truly does take a team effort to host these trainings. There are several natural points along this session that will allow me to pause and respond to your questions. We're going to do our best to answer all of them, and go ahead and enter, like I said, enter them into the Q&A function. And if we're unable to get to it today, then we're going to go ahead and reach back out to the person that was asking the question. This session is being recorded and will be shared on the WASAC website probably next week or so. With that said, let's go ahead and get started. So first, I kind of want to get an understanding of who's in with us here today. And so I'm going to launch a couple of questions through the poll function and give you about a minute or so to answer each question. So let me go ahead and get this started. Perfect. So I see we have some new people. We have some people that are pretty comfortable with this. All right, ETV, very new. Heard of ETV? Okay. Fantastic. And honestly, I'm not sure if once I end this poll, it looks like we're still getting some answers, if you're going to see the results of this. So I'll go ahead and share that as soon as I see this starting to slow down. So okay, we have about 58% of our people, or 59% of our people that are pretty comfortable with Passport, but they're here to learn more information. 36% of our people are brand new to Passport, and about 4% of our people are experts on Passport and looking for program updates. In regard to ETV, 58% of our attendees are brand new to ETV. And 42% have heard of ETV, and nobody knows all about ETV. So this is a perfect opportunity for you to learn. Kathy's laughing. This is a great opportunity for you to learn about the program. Oh, I can't share the results. Okay. So, go ahead. So thanks so much for sharing. We're going to do our best to cover some basic information about the programs for our new people, some initiatives that WASAC is working on, and then we'll cover some program-specific things like how to navigate through the portal and where to find some resources. And as I mentioned earlier, we also want to be able to answer any questions that you might have about our programs. Okay, next slide. But I want to take a minute before we really jump in. I want to acknowledge that it really has been a bumpy year. We're all working really hard and trying to meet the needs of our students at a time when resources are truly stretched thin. Personally, I know whenever I start feeling overwhelmed, I like to remind myself of why I chose this career path. And like you, I care really deeply about our students and want to always provide them with the support they need to be successful. That being said, I want to share some of the things that our students have commented on about the college staff and the Passport program. These are just a handful of verbatim comments that were shared in the 2024 student survey. And basically, I just want to say, like, they see you, they know that you're working hard on their behalf, and they really do appreciate you. And quite frankly, so do I. Our Passport College teams are some of the most hardworking and dedicated people out there. And I really wouldn't want to do this work without you. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you for keeping your head up, even when things are tough. You all are warriors. So now I'm going to go ahead and jump in. There's a lot to talk about and a very limited amount of time. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Okay, next slide. Perfect. Thank you, Colleen. At its most basic level, the Passport program provides students with a scholarship and support services. Students may choose one of two pathways. They can either choose to go to college, or they could participate in a registered apprenticeship or pre-apprenticeship program. Next slide. So who exactly is eligible for the Passport program? Prior to the expansion that began in the 2018 and 19 academic year, eligibility for the program was very narrow and had a limited number of students that were supported. A year or so before the expansion was initiated, House Bill 6274 challenged Washington to be #1 in the nation for foster youth, high school graduation, post-secondary enrollment, and post-secondary completion. Washington State couldn't move the needle by serving the small number of students that were identified in the original program statute. So in order to be eligible, students need to have experienced foster care either through state, tribal courts, or through the interstate compact or the placement for the placement of children at any point after their 13th birthday. Additionally, students who experience homelessness without a parent or guardian on or after July 1st in the prior year are eligible for the program. Okay, next slide. So I'd shared the broadest eligibility on the previous slide, and this slide provides a little bit more information about that. It provides some details around that. So for Passport to College, students must enroll prior to their 22nd birthday. They must also complete their FAFSA or WASFA. And students must attend an eligible college in Washington State. And because of our state's laws about the separation of church and state, students may not pursue a degree in theology. And finally, they must be a Washington State resident. I'm going to pause. Were there any questions that came up? No. Perfect. So many of you know that Passport is a multidimensional program providing students with both scholarships and support services. In this section, I'll be covering both student support and some new initiatives that WASAC is pursuing. No, we can go back one slide, Colleen. Okay, perfect. Thank you. One of the truly unique things about the Passport program is the comprehensive nature of its services to students. It does not only provide a scholarship, but it also provides an avenue for student support services that are financially supported by flexible funds from the state of Washington. To participate, an institution must sign an addendum to the regular participation agreement for state financial aid programs. This addendum requires institutions to develop a viable student support plan that is framed by 4 primary components. So first of all, they need to have a campus leadership commitment, and they need to name a Passport campus leader. This person in the campus leader role might be a president or a dean or someone in a decision-making role for the college. Secondly, they need to name a designated support staff or DSS. You'll hear me say DSS quite a bit. This is the person who will reach out to the student and provide them with support while they're attending college. And then they need to identify staff and financial aid. And the Passport financial aid staff is knowledgeable about the unique financial needs of Passport students and frequently works very closely with the DSS to ensure that the student is receiving all of the financial aid that they're eligible for. And then we also ask that the financial aid office reviews student financial aid, ensuring that all resources are utilized to reduce the reliance on student loans. And finally, we ask institutions to connect with social service providers, such as setup providers and independent living providers that are supporting students for developing their post-secondary plan. And just as a side note, there are some role descriptions based on some recommendations from the Passport leadership team for the Passport campus leader, the designated support staff, and the financial aid staff. The Passport designated staff typically works with a campus leader to help develop their student support plan annually. Student support plans are sent to institutions, student support funds are sent to institutions on a quarterly basis after the close of interim reports. In a normal year, colleges receive $500 per student per quarter or $750 per student per quarter. But because of budget constraints, we're having to make some adjustments to that this year. In the 24-25 academic year, colleges will receive one bulk payment for the same amount as what was received in the 23-24 academic year. If you have any questions about that, please feel free to reach out to me, and I'm happy to provide you with more information on what the dollar amount was that your institution received this year. So some common uses of Passport student support funds include targeted services such as financial planning seminars, private study areas, and access to computer labs or special orientations and welcome functions, and access to pre-enrollment, academic, personal, and career services. Student support funds may also be used for general purposes. And these purposes include things like emergency loans, wages, textbooks for a lending library, resource loan library that included computers and other electronic equipment. Sometimes gift cards are given out to grocery stores, gas or transit passes to help with transportation costs. Some institutions have done college survival backpacks and other school supplies. The schools are also able to provide students with healthy snacks or warm clothes, including socks or hats or boots or gloves or coats. Sometimes institutions have helped pay for medical bills or housing expenses and some testing fees. Students can work with the designated support staff for help with things such as counseling and tutoring, or for getting support around housing or their basic needs. Campuses may also provide the students with emergency help and for costs, like I had mentioned, for things like transportation. The main goal around the support services is to help students overcome barriers to their education or training and to help them persist and earn their credential. Okay, next slide. This slide just shows you the multiple sources of support for Passport students. So first, from institutions, as mentioned in the previous slide, Passport student support funds have been found to be a critical aid in helping students. Additionally, the Supporting Students Experiencing Homelessness, or SSEH program, is also a program that has been funded and implemented at some college campuses. There's also a basic needs program that's available at at other campuses as well. The College Success Foundation also has limited emergency funds for Passport students through their Emergency Scholar Success Fund. So students, if they really get into a bind, they can apply through the College Success Foundation. And in addition to scholarships, WASAC provides outreach to students through direct email and texting campaigns and through other sources of state financial aid. So moving on to what's new. Emergency funding has been a really hot topic because of the guidance that was released by the feds a few months ago. This is especially important for Passport because of the availability of student support funds to help students overcome barriers. I know Carly had covered much of this in the WCG session, but I also wanted to mention it here. So the federal guidance says emergency financial assistance provided to the student for unexpected expenses that are a component of the student's cost of attendance and not otherwise considered when the student's need is made shall not be treated as other financial assistance. So essentially, funding utilizes emergency funding assistance for unexpected expenses is not factored into need-based calculations. WASAC is recommending that colleges have a policy and process for students to request emergency assistance to document their request. Because this is a brand new policy, I'm sure there's going to be a lot to learn in the upcoming year. Okay, next slide. So I'm going to go ahead. I don't know if I can add this to the chat, but I'm going to add our passport evaluation link. See if I can do this. Okay. The 2024 legislature provided $150,000 for full evaluation of the passport program. The evaluation was completed by a third party named Westat over the past year, and the final report was completed in June. I just included the link on the chat for the so that you can review the report in your spare time. In a nutshell, the recommendations are number one, to allocate stable funding to meet the needs of eligible students. The second thing was to establish additional methods to identify passport eligible students. Thirdly, they were asking, they recommended reconsidering the eligibility criteria for passport. And then fourth, they recommended funding full-time dedicated and qualified staff to help support students. And then they said to refresh and redesign the program for unaccompanied homeless youth and apprenticeship participants. And then to continuously improve communication and connection. And finally, to improve data collection and regularly share data with key constituents. So many of you were contacted by Westat over the past year while they were working on the passport evaluation. And I just wanted to tell you thank you for taking the time to meet with them and for your honest feedback. Without that work, we can't continue to make improvements on the program and better support our students. Okay, next slide. So this has also 2025 legislation, it's July. You wouldn't think that we would be busy with 2025 legislation in the summer when leg session starts in January, but we're already working on things for next year. So last year, WASAC had requested $2 million as part of our maintenance package, but received only half of what was requested. As a result, student awards were nearly cut in half, and funding to institutions to support passport students was also impacted. So next year, one of the things that we're talking about, so highest priority is to restore funding to at least having awards restored to $5,000 per student per year. And then we're also questioning whether or not that's the correct amount, and understand that language may need to change so that we can make award adjustments over time. Additionally, we're aware that student support funds need to keep up so schools are able to support the increasing passport caseloads. And then the other thing that we're thinking about and talking about is, should passport students have guaranteed money? And so we're looking at forecasting models that could help ensure ongoing funding for the passport program. And then finally, we're looking at making passport students able to access funding through WCG Connect. Just a quick note that would require statutory authority. And if we were able to do that, then we could contact students in high school and making them aware of their eligibility for both WCG and passport as well. Okay, next slide. I'm going to pause. Are there any questions or anything that's coming up? Okay, we'll move on. So we're going to look at passport by the numbers, and I know you all are financial aid data geeks, and so I'm going to try to provide you with the information that you all are craving, right? So go ahead, next slide. All right. Each year, WASAC asks institutions to submit the unit record report. The unit record report reconciles scholarship and grant payments and provides the state with other important information such as student demographics and enrollment status. We recently wrapped up the reporting from the 22-23 academic year, and I was able to pull some highlight data on Passport. If you'd like the full student profile for Passport, just send me an email and I'm happy to get that to you. So what we see here is that although maximum passport awards were $5,000, the average award was actually just over $4,000. And we suspect that this might have something to do with students taking a gap quarter or enrolling inconsistently throughout the academic year. Average total aid received for passport students was just over $22,000, and this includes state, federal, and institutional aid. 68% of passport students identify as female. Just over 13% of the students did not begin their academic year during fall quarter. And this is actually a 3% drop from the 21-22 academic year data, where 16% of students delayed their enrollment. 74% of students attended full-time, and almost 70% of the students were either in their freshman or sophomore years. Okay, next slide. I'm going to take a minute to pause on this slide to talk about some program growth. Since 2018-19, which was the first year of the program's expansion, Passport has grown about 4.5 times larger in the number of students served. What's interesting is that during the pandemic, we saw a dip in the number of students that were entering into the state foster care system, but the number of eligible fosterees served through Passport has pretty much, for the most part, remained stable. However, the number of young people experiencing unaccompanied homelessness has skyrocketed in the program. So, for example, in 2019, which was the first year of serving unaccompanied homeless youth, we served 832 students, of which 362 were unaccompanied homeless. This year, we've served 1,022 unaccompanied homeless youth students. Please know that WASAC is definitely aware of the increasing population of eligible students and how it's impacting staff on campuses. WASAC has developed a work group with partners to help identify ways to adjust things in the program to better utilize the support service funding on campus. So this is a project that we've begun digging in on, and we're going to be having more conversations about in the near future. Next slide. So this slide is just kind of an expansion of what I provided you on the previous slide with the numbers of students. This shows basically the investment and the dollars that have been spent in the program over the years. And again, it's another reflection on how much the program has grown over the past few years. Okay, next slide. So although the legislature did not fully fund Passport, they did allocate an additional $1 million for the program. So in the 24-25 academic year, Passport will have nearly $8 million for scholarships, support services, administration, and contracted services. Okay, next, right. So this slide, I have to apologize. I know there's a ton of information on here, but I wanted you kind of to have a glimpse on what students were saying. So each spring, WASAC sends a survey to all Passport eligible students. And I've included this slide to show you some of the data that was collected. What the story tells us is most of our students are attending full-time. About a quarter of them are not aware of the support they can receive through Passport. They want to be contacted by Passport staff on a regular basis, and over half of them said that their Passport support person was very important to their college support experience. Many of them needed assistance with financial aid, with covering tuition and fees, and over half said the support they received helped them persist in college, and most will continue their enrollment in 24-25. Many are needing additional help with covering their educational expenses, and Passport is helping encourage students to enroll and persist in college. And finally, most of the students are employed. Of those employed, most are working over 20 hours a week, and 15% of our students are employed more than 40 hours per week. So that's a lot. If they're working and going to school, that is a lot. Okay. So data sharing in the portal, if there's any questions. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and move on to the next slide. So state foster youth data provided in the portal comes directly from DCYF. And in fact, Kathy here on our panelist, as our panelist, is our partner in that work. DCYF sends data to WASAC for both Passport and the College Bound Scholarship program. This information in the portal should be used as verification of a student's foster care status. We're also working on having the infrastructure to receive data from OSPI on high school seniors that have been verified as experiencing unaccompanied homelessness. Our IT team is working on that development now, and I am hopeful we'll be able to post information to the portal for institutions sometime this fall. So hopefully that'll help you in identifying students. Okay, next slide. We all know how important it is to protect student personally identifiable information. And this slide here is just a reminder, if you're needing to email Passport staff with sensitive information, please utilize the secure messaging function in the portal. Okay, next slide. Approved users may look up student eligibility in the portal. You will need to enter the student's full date of birth and either the last 4 digits of their social security number or their last name. And I just wanted to note here really quickly that the reason for date of birth and last name is that DCYF frequently doesn't collect a social security number for their foster youth. And so we had to come up with a different method for identifying eligible students. So another piece is to watch for multiple records for the same student. If you're looking up the student by date of birth and last name, just keep an eye out for those multiple records. If you see them, notify WASAC so we can merge the records. And like I said, this is typically found when you're looking them up by date of birth and last name. Okay, next slide. So if a student is eligible, a green check mark will appear in the eligible column. I'm hoping you can see this. Occasionally you will see the words overridden, yes. And that basically means that there was a change in the student's original status. If a student's status is listed as in process for a foster youth, please reach out to Passport staff and we'll work with Kathy to verify the student's eligibility. The classification column identifies the student's type of foster care or unaccompanied homeless status as a qualifier for Passport. There's SFY, which is state foster youth, URM or unaccompanied refugee minors, and those are our federal foster youth. TRB are tribal foster youth, and UHY are the unaccompanied homeless youth. The QER identifies the numbers of quarters of eligibility remaining. And financial aid administrators can also find that definition by hovering your mouse over the little blue circle, this little blue eye icon. Okay, next slide. For the most part, financial aid offices identify and post students who qualify for Passport as an unaccompanied homeless youth. Institutions should post their eligibility in the portal. And if an institution is unable to make the determination, refer the student to WASAC, and we'll work with that student and kind of dig in a little bit more. A student remains eligible for Passport unless there's a gap in enrollment, with the exception of summer term. If a student's status changes, institutions are able to adjust the student's eligibility by clicking on the Cancel UHY link in the portal. WASAC will be alerted of the change of the status and will make an update. I also wanted to mention this year, I noticed that, so if students were transferring, so say they were at a community college and they were receiving Passport they were attending a community college and then they were transferring into a 4-year institution. The community college may not have identified the student as unaccompanied homeless, but the 4-year institution did. I know that there was a little bit of some speed bumps around final interim this year because, maybe the community college is being notified, hey, students eligible for Passport. And they're saying, well, we didn't determine this. How did this happen? What I want to say is that if we have 2 years open at the same time, this could happen. And if it does, reach out to Carly or myself and we'll dig into it and find out what's going on and make the changes that we need to on our end so that you're able to finish your final interim and then the institution can go ahead and post awards for the upcoming academic year. So when 2 years are open at the same time, it gets a little bit complicated there. Okay. So we'll move on to program forms and eligibility lists. We should be able to get through this pretty quickly. So we can go next slide. So state foster youth are auto-enrolled into the Passport program through a data sharing agreement with DCYF. And then that information is also verified through FAFSA or WASA. However, unaccompanied refugee minors, which are our federal foster youth, and young people with their foster care established through a tribal court are not automatically populated into the portal. So these students need to complete a passport consent form and send it to WASAC so we're able to verify their eligibility with the proper authorities. So through the consent form, the student can share who had the oversight of their foster care placement. So you can see on the form itself, it says that they're, they can identify either state dependent, federal, refugee, or tribal dependent. Students experiencing unaccompanied homelessness do not need to complete the passport consent form. Okay, next slide. If a young person had their foster care placement established through a tribal court, they will also need to complete a tribal verification form. So unfortunately, WASAC does not currently have a data sharing agreement with the 29 federally recognized tribes. So the form, once authorized by the student's case manager or social worker, provides the verification of a young person's eligibility for passport. So this form also needs to be submitted to WASAC once it's completed, which allows WASAC staff to post the student's eligibility into the portal for financial aid administrators to verify against. Okay, next slide. So as I mentioned previously, in most cases, eligibility for unaccompanied homeless youth are it's determined by the financial aid offices. So this housing questionnaire is simply provided to financial aid administrators as a resource to help with the documentation of the student status. You can choose to use this form or you can use your own internal documents. It's just here as a resource. Okay, next slide. So one of the questions that I hear most frequently is, how do I find eligible students? And the answer is that there pretty much is no magic bullet for this process. However, we do our best to help provide institutions with some kind of starting point to work from. So each year, WASAC sends a list of students to financial aid administrators. And basically what it is these students have been determined eligible for passport and indicated an interest in attending your college on their FAFSA or WASFA. It's not perfect, but it is a starting point. And I just wanted to also put it out there that you can request this list pretty much at any time. You don't have to wait for us to send it to you in the fall. With the exception of this year, because the delays and changes to the 24-25 FAFSA has impacted WASAC's ability to get this list to the institutions, which is why you haven't received it yet. But I can tell you, I checked with our research team last week, and they're working on a tool to help me be able to pull that data. So I should have access to it within the next couple of weeks, and I'll get it over to institutions as quickly as I possibly can. I also wanted to mention that you can find students through admissions or registration materials, through student self-disclosure when you're having discussion with them, and possibly through learning about the student from their social service providers or other supportive staff. Okay. So I'm just going to move into basically what's next for Passport, what kind of things that you need to be reminded of, and some upcoming events. So just some really quick program reminders here. Administrators are asked to request funding each quarter. This year is especially important for you to post these awards and request the funding in a timely manner. Fall quarter enrollment will help determine whether we make adjustments to Passport award amounts for the 24-25 academic year. So that's still kind of up in the air depending on the student enrollment for fall quarter. Just a really quick reminder, Passport students still receive priority funding for state work study. And finally, the program manual does include a section for Passport program staff. Next slide. Okay, perfect. So July, the month of July, I've been in contact with all institutions regarding the addendum, and I have sent agreements to all of those institutions who have identified a signatory for that agreement. These agreements they're slowly starting to come in. Some institutions they haven't provided a signatory yet. So Nicole and I have been working on following up with them. Addendums do need to be signed and submitted to WASAC before any student support fund payments can be sent to the institution. And then moving on to August, it's quickly approaching. I'll be sending out a link for the 23-24 student support fund reports, and I'll talk about this more on the next slide. In September, the campus DSS designated support staff will be submitting Passport student support plans. Again, if your campus needs any assistance with this, please reach out. And then November is a big month for all of us because of fall interim reports. They're going to be due then. And then WASAC will be analyzing student headcounts and making projections for the remainder of the year. Also, student support fund payments will be sent in bulk to participating institutions. So the student support fund reporting. So student support fund reports will be sent to the designated support staff on August 1st. Although a bulk of the report will be completed by the DSS, there are some components that will need to be completed by financial aid administrators. So just a little heads up on that. Here's the challenge. The report is completed through an online survey, and the survey doesn't allow people to enter the survey and then save progress and return to it. So what I do is I email a PDF of the questions that are listed on the survey. And if you are the financial aid administrator responsible for Passport, please make sure you're reaching out to the campus DSS so that you are working together and getting the appropriate information posted in that survey. Again, if you have any questions or if you'd like me to email the questions to you, please just reach out and I'm happy to do that for you. Okay. We're going to move on to our community partners because Passport is multidimensional. Next slide. So I'm going to go ahead and add this important link, just 1 second, to the chat. All right. As you may be aware, WASAC contracts with the College Success Foundation for training and technical assistance and new staff onboarding. If you have new staff members, please reach out so we're able to get them trained on the Passport program. CSF also does project management for the Passport leadership team, which is our advisory, and manages the Washington Passport Network website, which I just added to the link, added to the chat function. This Washington Passport Network is geared toward administrators and practitioners. It is not necessarily intended for students, although the emergency fund application is available on the Washington Passport Network website. If you haven't checked it out, jump in. I'm added, like I said, I added the link to the chat, and the resource section is super helpful, or I hope it's helpful for practitioners and those adults that are supporting our students. They also provide support to our regional networks and offer professional development through webinars and the annual Passport conference. Okay, next slide. I had mentioned the Passport leadership team earlier, but this team is the advisory group for the Passport program, and it's made up of representatives from institutions, social services, state agencies, and apprenticeship programs, apprenticeships. We meet quarterly, and we have several work groups that meet more frequently depending on the need of the work. CSF facilitates the PLT meetings along with WASAC, and we have 2 co-chairs. Yep, okay, next slide. I'm just going to do a really light touch here about Passport to Apprenticeships. Passport to Apprenticeships program is managed by ANU, They support young people in non-campus-based apprenticeships and pre-apprenticeship programs, and they help cover things like tuition fees, work clothes, rain gear, boots, and occupation-related tools. And I really want to mention the setup program. So setup is like the junior passport in a sense. It's supposed to be intended as kind of like a pipeline for the passport program. So setup supports foster youth and unaccompanied homeless youth with making the transition from high school to college, career, or service. There are currently 5 providers throughout the state of Washington, and they serve just under 300 students each year. Setup providers help students with things like admissions applications, financial aid applications, a FAFSA, and they also work with them like on campus tours or doing career interest inventory exploration. So the passport program manual, many of you have been asking for it. We have made updates. We're going to be working on the edits and getting it posted to our website as quickly as possible. This year I did some modifications, and I'd love some feedback on it once you get a chance to take a look at it. Rather than doing the screenshots like I normally do in the program manual, I used a tool called Scribe. So I included links in the program manual, so you can click on those links and it'll walk you through the process, I think, in a much more efficient manner than how I had done it with the screenshots. But like I said, I'd love some feedback on that. If it's not working for you, let me know. So yes, I think that's it. And then training opportunities. So for those of you that are especially passionate about serving foster youth and unaccompanied homeless youth, the Blueprint Conference is a huge conference that's held in Los Angeles, California every other year. This year it's going to be on October 28th and 29th. And I've included the link on the slide here so you can learn more information about what exactly is happening with Blueprint Conference. The Passport Conference will be in person this year. It'll be held in May, and it will be held in Seattle. And then the other piece is the webinar training series and Passport Conference. Again, that can be found on the Washington Passport Network website. And then we do have a YouTube channel with recorded webinars that are posted for you to learn from. And then finally, our next slide. Here's our contact information. Please reach out to Carla, Nicole, or myself if you have any questions about Passport. We're happy to help you. And by this point, I think you're pretty tired of hearing my voice, so I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to my partners at DCYF. Thanks so much, everyone.
Thanks, Dawn. Hi, everybody. I am Kathy Ramsey, and Aubrey and I are here to talk to you about the Education and Training Voucher Program.
One more, Colleen.
I'm like, that looks different. Aubrey, do you want to say hi?
Sure. Good morning, everybody. My name is Aubrey Schlattman, and I use she for pronouns. I'm the ETV program coordinator at DCYF.
Next, please. So 59% of you, ETV is new. So this is, as Dawn said, a really good opportunity to talk about our wonderful program. So we provide financial assistance to eligible youth to attend an accredited college or university, vocational or technical school. And our maximum ETV award is $5,000 per academic year. Awards are unique to each student and are determined based on their unmet financial need. And our program, unlike other state-based programs, students can receive ETV funding if they go to school in another state, because our funding comes from the federal government with Chafee funds. And our average amount that students get is about $4,200 per academic year. So that tells me that, there's a lot of financial assistance for our young people to attend school, which is a great thing. Next, please.
So I think I saw College Success Foundation had a financial aid pyramid that showed state aid that was available. This is kind of like the same concept, just with a cupcake. So ETV is that very top of the pyramid. It's the last source of aid that's applied to a student's cost of attendance. By the time we see students finalize financial aid letters, we must see the Pell Grant. That is a requirement. And we also see most of our ETV students have the Passport to Career Scholarship. I will say not all Passport students receive ETV. The eligibility is a little different. And we also see Washington College Grant a lot, as well as College Bound and sometimes the Governor's Scholarship.
So to be eligible for ETV, young people need to be 15 to 20 years old and currently involved in a dependency action in Washington State or tribal court and in the care and custody of DCYF or an ICW agency and in foster care. They can be between the ages of 18 to 20 and have aged out of state or tribal care. And then youth who have aged out or who have been in foster care or who have aged out in another state may be eligible to apply for ETV. In Washington, we would need a letter from that other state saying that that youth would be eligible. But since they live in Washington and going to school in Washington, they won't be served. So then our ETV program can step in and help that student. If a youth was adopted or entered into a guardianship with a relative, on or after the age of 15, they'd be eligible. And then the nice thing about our program is that if a young person participated and was awarded and used ETV funds prior to turning 21, then we're able to help them until age 26, but they can't receive and use funding more than 20 quarters or 15 semesters. So that's a really nice benefit to the program because a lot of our students either start college when they're a little older, and then it takes them a while to get their degree. So if they get the funds prior to 21, then they're good to go for quite a long time with us. They have to be eligible and receive, like Aubrey said, the Pell Grant. They have to have an unmet need, and they have to be enrolled at least half-time and with one 100 level course, and as well as maintain satisfactory academic progress, which is a 2.0 GPA or higher. And as long as they don't lose their financial aid, they can continue to have ETV. Again, we know that sometimes students struggle. There's a lot of things that happen in their lives. And their GPA may tumble a little bit. So as long as they don't lose their aid, we can help them. Once, if they do lose their aid and then it gets reinstated, then they're good to go with ETV.
Some important ETV dates. So our applications for the 24-25 academic year opened this last January. And so for the 25-26 academic year, it'll be opening this coming January. We have a priority deadline of April 30th. However, we're still, we accept applications no matter the date. So if you hear a student that you think may be eligible, please contact us. And if they're eligible, have them send their application. And we will contact them.
So here's what's necessary in order to receive ETV funds. We need, and students struggle with this part, so we've kind of worked out ways to help them, but we need their cost of attendance for the year. And a lot of times they'll just send us what they owe for fall quarter or summer quarter, and then we always have to go back and forth with them about, nope, it's for the entire year. and we need their finalized financial aid letter. And again, sometimes they don't always look at their letter that's sent to them by the schools. But we do. And then if we see something missing, we'll let them know that there's still things missing on their letter and that's not their finalized version, and to contact the financial aid office. And again, if students are having trouble, like many of you probably have received emails from me saying, hey, could you send so-and-so their finalized award letter? They're having trouble. So again, we appreciate your help with that. It really helps remove some barriers for our young people and gets them their funding quicker with your involvement and your assistance. And then we need a schedule with showing their credits. They have to be in the vendor payee account system through the Office of Financial Management. That's not something you guys need to deal with, but just to let you know that there's a series of steps that our young people have to go through, and they can either get the check sent directly to them in the mail, or we strongly encourage them to set up direct deposit, because you probably know as well, our young people have a tendency to move around, and we don't want their funds to get lost in the process. And then once they're awarded, we send them a spending plan, and they let us know how they're going to use the funds.
I also just want to note, if a student is having any issues with finding that information, we do let them know if they're attending a passport participating institution, who their designated support staff and who their financial aid contacts are, as a resource. And that information is on their student portal as well. We also help students with their vendor forms process if they need it. We're happy to schedule meetings with that as well to help them submit those correctly. This is just an FYI that has links to the OFM, Office of Financial Management, vendor payee forms. They are now DocuSign, so students don't have to print and hand sign anymore. And they have step-by-step instructions available as well.
We just did a Zoom meeting with a student yesterday. He's going to Spokane Community College and was struggling finding his information, and so we were able to get his cost of it, show him how to go into the portal and get the information, and then Aubrey helped him do his vendor forms right there in the meeting. So again, we try to be available to our young people if they're struggling. Trying to figure out their student portal, I think, is a big struggle for them. So just maybe keep that in mind too. Aubrey's become very proficient on and walking them through the CTC links. So thanks to Aubrey. And this is just an example of an ETV award letter that we send out. We list the amount that they receive for the year, the name of the institution, and as you can kind of see, it's broken down into this is a quarter, so they're going to a quarter school, and the amount that they receive for each quarter will be listed in that category.
So Donna already talked about the new guidance around the FAFSA Simplification Act. And we just wanted to note that the ETV program is still a needs-based grant. So we still base awards off students' unmet need. However, the changes listed here are still for institutions, and that they're not supposed to include education and training vouchers as other financial assistance when they're calculating need. So we just wanted to note that again.
So this is what we need every year. So once we deem a young person eligible for the program, they're always eligible. So as Aubrey said, our applications open up every January 1st. So that's when the renewal application and the first time application appears on the website. We again need the cost of attendance and financial aid information. And then again, we really students panic when they see their confirmation letter if they send something early in the year to us. I don't have this or I don't have that. So they may be reaching out to folks sooner than you have information. So just kind of bear that in mind, because we want them to start getting used to communicating with folks and looking at their portal. If there's any questions, please reach out to Aubrey and myself. We love financial aid folks and DSSs on campus. They're a big help to us. So next slide.
Right, so that was annual. So these are what we ask and follow up with students on every quarter and semester. As you saw earlier on the award letter, the ETV award is broken up by quarter or semester. So we ask for a student's new schedule once they have it with credits, and their grades with GPA once those are posted. And then we can send a new spending plan for that upcoming quarter or semester. And those are just examples of what is perfect to send us.
Yeah, we take it in any format that they can send it to us. So they can take a picture on the phone, they can screenshot us the information. We've tried really hard to remove barriers to them, because again, any delay in funding can really make a difference in their lives. So we've tried not to be that barrier. So we've talked about a lot of this already, but our applications are posted online, or you can send an email to Aubrey or myself and ask for the application. Workers and IL providers do that. We've sent them to designated support staff. So if anytime there's a question or a concern, or you need something, don't hesitate to reach out. Again, even though once they're deemed eligible, they still have to apply every year. So they would send a renewal application in. And then we also, we want anybody to let us know if there are accommodations needed to complete the application or the forms, and we'll do what we can do to make that happen. And as you can see right now, the 24-25 applications are there. And this doesn't apply to financial aid folks, but just so you know, we have a dual credit Running Start ETV program, and those young people can receive $2,000 per academic year while they're going to Running Start. And then just again, thank you for helping us, partnering with us, assisting our students. You're responsive, and we appreciate that. And please don't hesitate to reach out if you think a young person is eligible for ETV, but you're not sure if they've submitted an application. We really appreciate an email saying, do you have this application? Any kind of questions you have. We really appreciate the back and forth with DSSs and financial aid administrators. So thank you. It makes a difference for our students.
Hey, Kathy, there's a question in the question and answer box that say, are undocumented and international students eligible since they fill out a WASFA?
They are not eligible for our ETV program. The unaccompanied refugee minor program has a similar ETV program with them, and Molly Daggett is the overseer of that program, but they're not eligible for ours because our students have to get the Pell, and those students are not eligible to receive the Pell.
So for the person that's asking the question, whatever the state provides to foster youth, they're also required to provide to unaccompanied refugee minors or the federal foster youth. So there is a program that is ETV similar to ETV, but it's provided through DSHS. And I'll add Molly Daggett. She's the program manager for the program, and I'll add her email address to the chat function here.
And as Aubrey said, because of the eligibility requirements are a little bit different, students can receive passport and not receive ETV. But if a student receives ETV, then they definitely would get passport, because passport is age 13 eligibility, and they can literally spend a day in care. And our folks, like we talked about at the very beginning, they have to be state dependent in foster care and after the age of 15. We did change the age for our youth. We had it 16 to 18, and then just for this start of this academic year 24-25, it's we reduced it to age 15 to align with the independent living program eligibility, which is 15. And next slide. And that's who we are. That's our contact information. We also have a Dropbox that Aubrey mans. And so if you can't remember our contact information, you can just send it a question or whatever you need to the etvywash@dcyf.wa.gov. And thanks for your time.
Yeah,
Anytime.
Thank
looks
you.
like we made it through our entire training. I just want to say thank you again for all that you do for our students. And with that, we'll go ahead and let you get back to your day. Thank you so much for being here.
Bye, everybody.